I don't know what's going on. And he says, wait. Wait for what? I'm doing my best. What did I do today? I'm just going to be talking to no one because nobody's going to be joining. But it's now, but it's not loading. Bruh. Okay. We're going to wait. What did you guys do today? Mr. is here. Oh, you're here. Welcome. Anyways. Welcome. Okay. Is this one at the bottom left corner of my phone? Anyways. Hello. I'm gonna be uploading this to the YouTubes. So, hello everybody. My name is Flexer and welcome back to another episode of Apex Legends Pathfinder's Quest. Today we're going to be doing chapter 3. I don't know if that's inverted or not, but it says 3. It's going to be Wattson's story called Devil in the Details. I could probably plug in my phone. Man, I should have done so many things. I don't do things good. I don't plan. I don't do anything. What I do is my best. But I should have got some water. And I should have done other things, but oh well. Starting. Pathfinder, Memory Log, Day 3. This is so exciting. I visited Gibraltar to learn more about the Outlands and left knowing all sorts of fun facts. I know how the Outlands were first colonized, how Ceres was born, how Aleki is related to Gibraltar, and how Little Mouse got its name. Now I would like to get a little mouse and name him City. Understanding how to name things is fun. What's not fun is how Gibraltar and the person he loves were separated. I'm programmed to love everyone, and when I think about what it would feel like to be separated from everyone, it makes me sad face. I don't like thinking about this. Let's think about something else. Now I'm heading to a small fishing village on the other side of the Duchess River, which is the river that Kings Canyon is on. It's part of Solace City, but they've adopted the name Eelhead Bay. If the eels' heads are here, I wonder where the rest of the eels are. You can't get to Kings Canyon from Eelhead Bay because the underwater whirlpools will kill you. But before the Syndicate built the whirlpools, it only took an hour to travel there by boat. This makes sense because the friend I'm going to visit had to travel there every day before it was decided she would live on Kings Canyon. Her name is Natalie, but many call her Wattson, and she's been a part of the Apex games since almost the beginning, even before she was a legend. Maybe she knows who Emil is. Maybe they share a connection. Maybe it's me. Okay. Thank you, baby. I said doo-doo. It's so hilarious. So, fun fact. First time I read this, I cried, so may cry again. Who knows? It'll be a surprise. I'm tired. What if I just take a nap? A nap stream. Sleep stream. You guys gotta wake me up. How would you wake me up? I don't have any notifications from Twitch because I don't get any money. Anyways, give me money. Okay, let's just get on with it. Why don't we? I look dumb. I washed my hair last night. That's why it's all oof. So, whatever. Moving on. Hello, Wattson. Bonjour, Pathfinder. Oh man, am I gonna have to do a French accent? It'll be so hilarious. Should I? Where's this gonna go? Is this gonna wait? Is this gonna export to Twitch? I don't know. I don't know if this is gonna export to Twitch. I don't know, man. I don't know. I shouldn't read everything and then not have it export, so I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna be right back. You guys just stay there. I'm gonna be right back. I'll be right back. So, I'm back. What I found out, wait, no, that's just me. I was about to say, we have 2 people in here? That's one more than usual. But no, it was myself. Anyways. I just went upstairs to check if the video would upload to Twitch, because on Xbox I would have to tell it to upload to Twitch. Like, hey, when I get done with the stream, it better show up, and like it does. But on here, it's like, yo, let's stream, and I'm like, okay, do you need me to like put it anywhere? And then they're just like, no, let's just stream. It'll go whatever we tell it to, and I don't know where that is, but it's to it's to Twitch, so it'll be fine. Anyways, let's continue from where we left off. I know I got a little distracted, but what are you gonna do? Okay. I should have brought my water. I'm dumb. Anyways, where were we? Oh yeah. Hello, Wattson. Bonjour, Pathfinder. I have recently learned people have preferences about their names. For example, I prefer Pathfinder to Marvin. Do you prefer Natalie or Wattson? Names are funny, aren't they? So many for one person. Wraith calls me Wattson. Octane and Mirage call me Watts. They're very impatient and don't have times for multiple syllables. Papa called me Natalie. I should call you something different too. Mirage is my best friend. I will do what he did and shorten one of your names. I'll call you Nat. I very much like that. From now on, Pathfinder calls me Nat. Marvelo. It's marvelous, but it's French. Where was I? Oh. This is exciting. Let's get started. Oh. Okay, so hilarious joke just went on, but you guys didn't read it because it's words. And I don't know if you can see this because it's inverted on my screen, but it says right there, it says in the middle, it says, I would very much like that. From now on, Pathfinder calls me Nat. And then the Marvelukes. And then down it says, this is exciting. Let's get started. And then he tries to say the word in French, but he struggles because he's a stupid robot. I know. I'm the best. Anyways, moving on. Anyways. Oh, Pathfinder, my papa used to tell that joke too, silly robot. I am a silly robot, Nat. Okay. No, just Nat is fine. Marvelou means marvelous in French. There was a period between Nat and Marvelou. Nat merveilleux. Oh. I only put periods in sentences when I write them or type them. If I wrote or typed in the first place If I wrote or typed in the first place, which I don't, punctuation is not spoken aloud. You are odd, girl. And you are the first person to say that. Oh, and you're not the first person to say that. I take it as a compliment. Papa used to say I wasn't odd. I was fortunate. He believed everything in life was balanced. Nature's way of keeping everything on the same level. A bug might be strong, but they aren't fast. A person could be brilliant, but physically feeble. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I was able to learn and retain information faster than others. Unfortunately, that was balanced by my knack for saying the wrong thing without realizing it. People say the same thing about me. We are very alike, you and I. We understand so much of how the world works, yet we are still trying to understand people. By the way, I know why you're here. You do? Yes. I always assumed this quest to find your creator would eventually lead to my front door, and I'm afraid I have bad news. He wasn't your creator. That is terrible news, and leaves me with one question. Who are you talking about? Papa, of course. Is that not why you're here? Because you think Papa built you? I need another swig of this water. Gotta keep y'all entertained. Gotta get the ha-ha funny laughs rolling in. I did not think that. Why did you think I would think that? It just seemed logical. Papa and I designed the ring. You're able to hack the survey beacons to see where it will close next. Seemed like a safe assumption to make if you're connected to the ring. You're connected to Luc Paquette. I feel foolish now. A lot of other things are going through my mind right now, and I should be focusing on the book. Did Leo say anything more funny? No? Okay. Your father was a smart man and very nice. I would have been honored if he had been my creator, Nat. Thank you, Pathfinder. But since you brought it up, why can't I hack into the survey beacon? All Marvins can, on Solace at least. It's a little program Pop-Up securely uploaded into the operating system of the ring. When a Marvin hacks into a survey beacon and connects with the ring, they get an extra assignment when they're programming. What kind of assignment and why? The Outlands can be lethal. First, long before the repulsor tower was put up, there was wildlife all throughout Kings Canyon. Then once the ring was installed, you suddenly had a large mass of energy that could shift and move at a moment's notice. Although the games weren't in session, there was still danger around every corner. Papa had one invention in particular he was desperate to keep safe, so he installed the survey beacon hack in every Marvin model in Solace City. That way, if anything went wrong, Marvins could detect nearby carnivorous wildlife and also see where the ring was traveling to next, using every resource at their disposal to keep their invention safe. This invention sounds very valuable and expensive. What was it? Me. Marvins have to protect you? Are you a robot like me? No, I am not a robot. I have a mother and father, but in a lot of ways he did invent me. He and my mama. As for protecting me, you no longer have that programmed into your software. I removed it. I do not understand. Mama died when I was a baby. Papa was a single parent. He worked a full-time job while his young daughter ran around on her own, curiously exploring dark vents, venturing into cave systems, playing in abandoned IMC laboratories, all surrounded by old chemicals and machinery, not to mention 4 petawatts of laser energy that moved around the whole island. Papa didn't have access to a nanny, but he did have hundreds of margins at his disposal. Voila! Instant babysitters. When I joined the games years later, I removed the babysitting aspect of the program so you don't have to protect me if you don't want to. Why would you remove a safeguard to keep you alive in the games, where you can die? Because it's unfair, and Papa always said that it doesn't matter if you win a game, if you didn't play fair, you lost. I disagree with that statement. Playing fair is lame. Anyways. So, am I cheating when I hack into a survey beacon? Maybe, but you are also incapable of deceit or treachery, and you don't have a brain, so balance. Balance is good, especially when walking. What an obviously literal thing to say. Thank you, it was. When did you move to Kings Canyon? When Papa got the contract to build the power grid for the games. I was 12 at the time. We always lived in Eelhead Bay, so I was already... Oh man. You know that thing where you breathe in and then your heart stops? That happened. I was living on 8 years. Listen, it's funny. Do you think Mirage would say, "Ayo mama, what's for supper"? Maybe. If his mom remembered him. Okay. Moving on. I was already familiar with Kings Canyon. It intrigued me. An island that was also a canyon, and one that had been abandoned by the IMC. I was fascinated with it. When I was old enough, Papa let me take a boat over and start to explore. By this time, I had already started reading Papa's textbooks and learning everything I could about the science behind electricity. Papa had no idea. He thought I was still playing with Nessies. I was, but I was also learning. You must have really enjoyed growing up here. It was an adventure. It was just me and Papa back then. The treaty had just been signed and the syndicate now controlled most of the Outlands. It has been 7 years already. Incroyable. That looks like Spanish, but it's French. It was Cuban Blisk's idea to bring back the Thunderdome games, revamp them into something new, something bigger, the Apex games. He named them after his team of mercenaries. Have you met Blisk? I have not. I would be very curious to see what it would be like if you did. Why? Is he not your friend? I don't think Cuban Blisk has friends. He's the antithesis of everything you are, Pathfinder. Your optimism, your spirit, your warmth, and je ne sais quoi. It's what makes you special. Blisk is cynicism. He's greed, ambiguousness, and misanthropy. I would think that when a positive charge such as yourself and a negative charge such as him were to share the same space together, the result magnetic. Magnets are fun and educational, so Blisk must be fun and educational too. So, you moved to Kings Canyon once Papa was hired? Just the two of us. Mama died when I was a baby, so I don't have any memories of her. I do have the stuffed Nessie she made for me. It sits on a shelf in my bedroom. Papa hired someone to make a bunch more for me, and I used to play hide and seek with them all over the canyon when I was little. Not Mama's Nessie though. She never left my side. That makes me feel a lot better for your loss, but I also think it's sweet. I wonder if there's a word for that. Was it difficult for the two of you? Difficult is subjective. It was just our life. Papa said yes to every job he was offered, no matter how hectic his schedule was. He couldn't afford not to. We knew the Kings Canyon job would take time, but most of the power lines were already there from the IMC. We'd rebuild, refurbish, but at least the foundation was there. We planned on being there a year or two at most. We had no idea that would be the last job he'd have. What made it so complicated? The more invested and involved Bliss got in the games, the more work my father had to put in. First, it was just being able to turn on the lights. Not a big deal. But then it was loot bins, computer networks. He had to work with nanotech specialists to figure out how to build and install respawn beacons from scratch. And there were the outer areas. He had to build an entire network of underwater motion-activated whirlpools to deter competitors from trying to swim away or leave the games mid-match by boat. There seemed to be no end in sight when it came to new additions, but Papa didn't mind. He loved a new challenge, and the Marvins he had working with him were top quality and never broke down. He actually got bored of how friendly they were, so he programmed one to be grumpy 2 days a week just for variety. That was our life for the next 5 years. Where did you live? A cabin up by the mountains that overlook the artillery base. There's a river up there. It's so perfect. I love that house. They tore it down after I moved out. They made that area off limits in the games, which is probably for the best. Who wants to be in a gunfight when you're feeling nostalgic? And when did they ask your papa to design the ring? Oh, well, we were on our way to being done at that point. Back during the Thunderdome games, there was no ring. It was a free-for-all. But as the first round of Legends started a few practice competitions, Blisk saw a pattern forming. Competitors would camp out where they could, hiding from each other, waiting quietly to pick people off as they wandered by. Matches went on for half a day, sometimes overnight. It certainly made things interesting, but the syndicate realized they needed to force them to move if they were going to hold an audience, make them fight. There were various proposals, but they all involved tactics that would harm the environment and that immediately disqualified them. I had been reading Papa's textbooks and studying up on science behind what he did. I was especially intrigued by lasers, and I wanted to help him, but he asked me to stay out of it. You're only a kid for so long, he'd say. Make the most of it. He made me so angry, dismissing me like that. I know now that he was just looking out for me, but at the time I was young and impulsive. I defied him and kept researching possible solutions. That's when I discovered a device built in the early 21st century. It was called the Active Denial System, but they gave it a ridiculous nickname of Heat Ray. It was the 21st century though. What did you expect? My history files confirm your mockery is based in fact. Ha! As ignorant as they were at the time, I realized they had inadvertently stumbled onto the solution to our problems. They used it for crowd control, which in essence is what the ring does. Using bubble shield technology, I hypothesized that if one domed shield surrounded the whole island and a second dome shield was within that first one, you could fill the space in between the two shields with the waves generated from an upgraded version of the ADS. Then, all you had to do was slowly shrink the inner dome shield and keep filling the space in between the ADS waves, forcing Legends to stay within the inner shield to duke it out, as they say. The best part The best part was that the light waves didn't seem to hurt the environment. Only living creatures would sustain long-term effects. Local wildlife wouldn't be an issue as we had built the repulsor tower. So, if this worked, we would have our crowd control containment system. All I needed were 2 bubble shields, which I had seen in one of the abandoned labs by the forest. That's how I met the ghost. You met a ghost? Funny how life throws things at you that you think are meaningless at the time, but ultimately end up being far more significant than you ever thought possible. The exact mathematics of these minor incidents, fractions of a moment. It isn't until you reach the end you realize how much of it is just ignored. That was just far. You just ignored. That was far more important than you thought. Every little piece is building to the final act of the story. Anyways, I'm rambling again. Right, the ghost, and so much more. This is where it starts a story of how Natalie met the ghost, called The Ghost. How much more of this do we got? Damn! That's a lot. No, not a lot. It's just a couple pages. Anyways, let's start. It was a dark and stormy night, and Nat had just gotten into an argument with her father. He had spent many nights trying to nail down the equations needed to power the modified containment system for his work. But how do you create and control an ever-shrinking ring of death? There were plenty of ideas. Could they control the weather? Could the island sink and then rise up again for the next match? Each concept was shot down, but Nat believed she had cracked the code. Laser cavities created between 2 bubble shields using an upgraded active denial system. By reshaping the ADS, they'd fill in the enclosed space with enough light waves to propagate the entire field. She told her dad she'd be able to obtain 2 bubble shields from the lads down by Glass Forest. Her father, however, frustrated with his own inability to crack the code and annoyed by his teenage daughter's interference in the project, ordered her to stay out of it. She tried to tell him that she had already figured out the equations, but he demanded that she go to her room. The argument escalated, as arguments do with adolescents often do, until Nat ran out into the night, screaming back at her father that he never listened to her, and that she hated him. She didn't hate him, not even a little. In fact, they were quite close, but 15-year-olds are prone to hyperbole. She was more determined to ever prove she was right. She looked back, relieved to see her father wasn't following. She knew Kings Canyon like the back of her hand, and since they were the only 2 people on the island, she knew she was safe. On a mission. She would be safe. On a mission, Nat trekked down to the old labs in the Glass Forest to find her bubble shields. Her journeys down to the lab were never pleasant. Once below ground level, everything grew musty and damp. The distant sound of dripping would echo, so she was never quite sure if she could trust her ears. The canyon played tricks on her as well. Was that a drop of water, or did somebody step in a puddle? Were they standing right there and it was too dark to see them? What if the puddle was directly in front of her, in that shadow? What if it was directly behind her? What if the thing that stepped in it was right there and she didn't see it? What if she saw it now? Inevitably, by the time she was asking herself this question, she could swear that the breeze that just wafted by was actually some creature's breath on the back of her neck. Nat shut out all of these voices as she entered the lab. At the end of the long hallway, she turned on a switch. The light flickered, and she saw that she was looking for. She saw what she was looking for over by the old gurney, the dome shields. The quicker Nat got her hands on them, the quicker she'd be able to get out of here. She made a beeline for the gurney, then looked up, startled. Was that a person? It was. It was Nat herself, or rather her reflection in a chrome light fixture on the wall. She chuckled. Being one of 2 people alone on the island, she'd grown used to that kind of thing. Her subconscious wanted to believe that there were others around, and sometimes it would almost convince her that there really were. How many times did Nat think she'd heard a voice? Stranger yet, she used to think she could hear humming. She'd chalk it up to one of the various generators or charge towers around the island, but sometimes she heard it in places where there was no machinery. Sometimes it even sounded human, but it never was. Like now, for example, she thought she sensed someone in the lab with her, but it had just been her reflection, which was why she almost jumped out of her skin when she heard a woman's voice say one word in a sharp, curt tone. Leave. That's impossible, she thought to herself. There was no voice here. There were no other people here, and the security system would have gone off if anyone had tried to dock in the water. It was probably a water drip that sounded like a voice, or maybe a leave. There it was again. Nat grabbed the dome shields, never taking her eyes off the only door in the room. Not that anybody would show up here, but even if they did, and made it down the steps into the long, damp hallway, Nat would still hear them. She'd still know they were coming. There was nothing here that could hurt her, or at least nothing that could sneak up on her. That's why her heart practically stopped when she looked back over a far wall with the light fixture, only to see a woman with milky, dead eyes directly in front of her. I said leave, she bellowed. Nat screamed and stumbled back. The thing with dead eyes was in tattered clothes. Where did it come from? Nat thought, panicked. There was no way she could have gotten in without me seeing her. How was she healed? How was she here? And the thing held a knife. Nat half crawled backward at a frantic pace, but her feet couldn't seem to find the ground. They slid on the dirt, giving out under her. She could feel her pulse pounding throughout her entire body as she continued to scream down the long hallway. She rounded the corner and stopped to catch her breath for half a second, looking down to see if she'd lost her shoes in the escape. Damn it, that was going to slow her. The dead eye suddenly appeared from out of nowhere, directly in front of her. But it's the opposite direction. Are there two of them? How many are there? And why is there no body attached to the head? Go, it demanded. Nat shrieked so hard that she started sobbing as she ran to the steps up into the cold, rainy night. When she emerged from the underground lab, she slammed the door shut as rain poured over her. She cried as she had never cried before in her life. Was it really trapped down there, or would it return? Was there an army of them? The second thing looked like the first, identical. I think I feel like myself reading because I'm so... Yeah. I am sleepy as well. But where's the adrenaline time? We're in the middle of a rush right now. Jesus, what was I going to say? The first, identical. Identical in fact. But how could it come from two directions at once? She didn't want to find out. She ran up the hill and over the mound of wet grass into the forest. By the time she could see the artillery base, her heart had stopped racing. The thing with dead eyes hadn't returned, and her home was in her line of sight. Maybe she really had imagined it. Maybe she was losing her mind. It's not like that thing had been there the first time she had been down there, and she'd never come across the evil woman before. Who was she? How did she die? And how could the ghost even exist in the first place? There would be a time for these questions later. She had more pressing concerns. Her father's light was still on. That much she could still see. Nat decided she wouldn't return home until she's proven to him that she had figured out the solution to the creature to creating the containment system. But she was far enough away from the underground lab that the apparition wouldn't come back for her. But was she far away from the underground lab that the apparition wouldn't come back for her? All it wanted was her to leave the lab. It didn't say anything about the forest. Knowing her cabin was only a short sprint away, she decided to take the risk. She scampered back down toward the lab, checking over her shoulder until she approached approached the first line of trees that acted as the border to what she referred to as the glass forest. It got its name from the unusual translucent leaves that grew on some of the trees. They were almost like glass. She found a jumperberry plant at the forest's edge and decided to make that the center of her final ring. She measured back about 200 meters, and she set up the first stone shield. The shield came to life, and a translucent dome appeared over the whole forest. She took a few steps in and activated the second bubble shield, which came to life within the first dome. Stepping out of both shields, she took in the sight before her. Everything was bathed in a pale blue light, with the jumperberry plant standing in the center of the inner dome. The rain was now falling harder now, but Nat was focused on finishing her work. She passed a tool that resembled an unusually wide hypodermic needle through the outer dome. A wire ran from the needle to a generator that she had recovered from one of the construction sites. Opening the control panel, she typed in her father's passwords, which she had carefully spied over his shoulder. The screen asked if she was ready to initiate the active denial system. Am I ever? She hit the enter key. A red light shot out of the needle, filling the empty space between the two domes with a scarlet energy, like blood spilling into the ocean. The rain began to pour down ever more heavily. A little longer, she told herself. If I'm ever going to prove to Papa that I know what I'm talking about, it has to be a little longer. Once the scarlet light filled the space between the domes, Nat took a deep breath. She moved her hand to the remote on her hip and began to shrink the inner dome. The red cavity between the two domes began to fill. The inner dome shrunk smaller and smaller until the only thing inside the bubble of icy blue light beneath the harsh red dome was the jumperberry plant. And that's when the lightning bolt hit the generator, shooting a bolt of electricity up the wire to her probe. In this instant, Nat came to the horrifying realization that she was not wearing shoes. Her shoes were with rubber soles, the only thing that would insulate her from. And then it stops. As the bolt of electricity hit her, Natalie Paquette flew 20 meters into the air. Her body slammed against the tree before hitting the ground with multiple cracks and a sickening thud. Surprisingly, still conscious, Nat used every ounce of her remaining strength to open her eyes. The generator had caught fire. It's okay, she thought. The rain will put it out. Just focus on getting to your feet. She tried, but she couldn't move. Every bone in her body was screaming in agony. What did I do, she wondered. I can't move. I can't scream. Am I going to die here? And then the rain stopped. The fire started to spread. Nat lay there, her home just out of reach, maybe half a kilometer at most. Her bed, her stuffed Nessie from when she was a kid. Why had she left her home? Why had she run out into the night? Papa, please come help. I didn't mean it. I don't hate you. Help me. I don't want to die. The smoke was all around her. The foliage was now in flames. Nat tried once again to move any part of her body, but even rolling over was an impossibility. She was paralyzed. The fire was now so close that it stinged her eyebrows. She could smell the burning hair. The smoke was overwhelming. Nat softly cried, her eyes closing as she repeated two words over and over again to absolutely no one. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What happened next remained a mystery for almost a decade. Nat vaguely remembered hearing something behind her. She glimpsed to the bottom edge of what looked like a passageway, suddenly appearing within the smoke, before the smoke backed away as the passage formed a doorway. How can smoke retreat like that? She later recalled thinking, someone stepped out of this impossible door from nowhere and carefully knelt over Nat. As Nat drifted into unconsciousness, she swore she saw the woman with dead eyes from the underground lab. Only this time, her eyes looked alive. determined even, impassioned, driven. She's only a few years older than me, she thought. The woman lifted Nat into her arms, and as she did, Nat saw one last image that was so powerful. She forced herself to stay awake to etch it into her mind. She could not forget this. She could feel herself being carried through the night and up the path to her father's cabin. Nat was barely conscious by the time the door opened, but she felt her father was there. She didn't remember the woman vanishing into thin air, or her papa lifting her into his arms and softly crying, telling her it would be okay. The only thing that she could remember was that the final image from the woods that she'd forced herself to retain. Despite the fire having burned the surrounding forest into ash, the jumperberry plant remained in the center of the ring, alive, well, and thriving. Pathfinder? Ah, yeah. What? Did I just scream? Sorry. You were so quiet. I thought you had powered down. No, I am conscious. You scared me. That was a really creepy story. Yes, but it has a happy ending, despite the electrocution that led to my father reprogramming every Marvin on the entire planet to babysit me, and left me with 7 broken bones, a concussion, and a Lichtenberg's figure on my cheek. That's how you got your scar? Oui. But most importantly is how I eventually was able to design the ring. The next night, I showed him the equations to make the light waves work in the bubble shield. He was blown away. He was blown away. He had never considered using the shields. Once I showed him how to do it, the syndicate approved the plan and he became one of their most trusted and beloved employees. Why did they build the statue of him in the center of Eelhead Bay? Why not a statue of you? I made him promise to take full credit. I didn't do it for my own gain. I did it because I loved him and I wanted to see him happy. My father was a local hero, and Bliss gifted him with a large bonus check. They even gave us a new home in Eelhead Bay, free of charge. When you're on the good side of organized crime, it's not always a bad thing, especially when organized crime doesn't answer to anyone, eh? And you never got the credit? Not then. After he passed away, I was summoned to Blisk's office in the Syndicate Tower. That was the first time I'd ever spoke to the man. He told me that Papa had come to his office the night they approved our proposal. He told Blisk everything, how I'd literally risked my life to find a way to make the ring happen, and that I made him promise he'd take the credit. Papa didn't want me to know that he had gone back on that promise, but he thought it would be important that Blisk knew. I don't know why Blisk cared. He had no children, so he couldn't possibly relate to this. But Blisk said he understood, and even though he knew the truth, he kept the lie alive that my father had built, the containment ring that I would always believe had built the containment ring so that I would always believe Papa had kept his word. After his death, Blisk felt I was owed the truth and wanted me to know that I would always have a home and a job at the games, no matter what. Years later, when I asked to become a legend, he pushed me through without even one qualifying match. I'm very lucky. The syndicate thinks very highly of me. I don't ever want to take that for granted, nor do I want to take advantage of it. Oh, and Bliss gave me one last gift. A letter Papa wrote me the night I showed him the equations. He told me how sorry he was for being stubborn and how proud he was for me. I framed it and put it on my nightstand. Of all his inventions, this is the one I prize most. If it's your prized possession, you should program Marvids to save it in case of emergency. Who's to say I haven't already? And what about the ghost? Papa had that lad sealed up when he heard my story, sent down into the dirt. He didn't believe in ghosts, but he also didn't believe in taking chances, so it was buried, along with its secrets. He didn't ever want to step into the place that led his daughter almost dying. He didn't believe in ghosts, but you do? Do I believe in things that go bump in the night? No. But who's to say that energy inside us doesn't transform or transfer itself somewhere after our bodies die? That's why I still think that's why I still talk to Papa sometimes. Not because I think he'll appear as an apparition or anything, but in case his energy is nearby. But you saw one of the ghosts, therefore it must be real. No, I didn't. What I saw that night, who I saw, didn't become apparent to me until many years later. This past summer, in fact. I put it all together with her help. See, I thought she looked familiar, but when I met her, I couldn't place her. I just thought she had one of those familiar faces. But I did meet her before, and when she and I put the pieces together, everything made sense. Who are you talking about? Who did you know before? Wraith. The woman with the dead eyes? It was Wraith. Our Wraith. Days after she used her portal to enter our world, she had been hiding out in those labs while she came up with a game plan to learn her identity. I was just some kid who stumbled into her shelter without realizing it. Her head wasn't disembodied, it was just sticking out from a portal. Years later, when we met as adults, Wraith didn't recognize me because it had been 7 years. I'm not 15 anymore. That's incurable, as you would say. And she saved your life in the fire? The voices from the void warned her of the blaze, and she used her abilities to save me and dropped me off at my house. Knowing that she had been discovered, she left that night and made her way into Solace City. The glass forest had burned to the ground. I called it the Shattered Forest after that, like shattered glass. We sealed the lab up entirely until years later when the repulsor tower attack happened and the Syndicate unearthed everything. Who would have thought that the ghost I saw as a child would one day be my teammate and friend? This is what I'm saying, Pathfinder. Whatever you find out on this journey to find your creator, pay attention to the little things. Trillions of people in this universe, and yet connections somehow arise when you least expect them. Connections you can't even imagine. You never know who or what will pop back up and be important later on. Anyway, there I go again. I spent my formative years with nobody in my life but my father. I'll talk to anyone for days if you don't stop me. You should hear Dr. Caustic when I get talking. It's not what you say isn't interesting, Miss Burkett, but I grow weary of your rambling. I think it's interesting that you are friends with Caustic, considering you are so well liked and he is what my records indicate to be called a sociopath. He is, but he's still a human being. Some people like to wear masks. Caustic and Crypto want to hide who they are. I think they have their reasons. I respect that, though I think it's good if I keep my distance from them sometimes. When I'm around, they act like little boys, always fighting. I prefer when they act like scientists. I come from a long line of great scientists. Papa's father was Emile Paquette, a world-renowned chemist on gridiron, and his mother was Emile Paquette. Dang, why they like that? Anyways, Papa's father was Emile Paquette, spelled Emile, a world-renowned chemist on gridiron, and his mother was Emile Paquette, spelled Amelie, who was known in some circles as the mother of minerals. Oh, are you connected to Emile? She is my paternal grandmother. Why, are you looking for some information on Emile? I found a recording about the purpose I was built for, an SOS from a woman named Emile, and a last name that begins with P.A. Fascinating, but she was a geologist. Unless you were built to move rocks, I'm not sure why she would be involved in your creation. Do you know where she lives? She's dead. She died in the lab explosion while working on the assignment on Samathi when Papa was young. He never talked about how she died, or how he felt about her, and I didn't ask questions. I just know that whatever happened to her, it was bad. Very, very bad. You said it was an assignment involving geology? Who assigned it to her? I don't know the details. She mostly worked freelance, although I know she did some work for the IMC. Nothing connected to the war. Again, she dealt with minerals, mostly regard to alternative fuel resources. Oh, but you know what? Speaking of Wraith, she might be able to help you. She had some luck finding old files related to her experiment in the same labs where I first met her. Maybe you can take maybe she can take you down there and help you look around. You might find something with Grandmare's name on it. And if you do, let me know. I do love a good mystery. And that's where it ends. At least the transcript. I've still got a letter and the data points received. So, Kings Canyon was occupied by the IMC until they abandoned it. After the treaty was signed ending the Civil War, Mercenary Syndicate chose Kings Canyon to bring back the Thunderdome games as the Apex games. Luke Paquette was hired to install the electrical system. He and his daughter Natalie moved to Eelhead Bay on the Duchess River. Blah, 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 blah. Emile Paquette is Wattson's grandmother. Blah, blah, blah. Go talk to Wraith. Okay. So, Leo isn't asleep. We've got the picture of Pathfinder and Wattson. We got this sketch that Natalie made of the ghost. We've got a lot of reading. We've got the before and after of the Shattered Forests from Season 1 and then Season 2. We've got Natalie's original Nessie that her mother made her. We've got Marvin, and then we've got this. It was from the Stories from the Outlands. And included in that Stories from the Outlands was this letter, I believe, from Natalie's father. My dearest Natalie, as I write this letter, it's the middle of the night in the late summer, although it's always summer on Solace, no? You have poked your head out of your bedroom twice already, insisting I retire for the night, always looking out for me, though you're still a child yourself. At least, that's what I pretend. But it appears that Jeez. My throat is dry. You're still awake. At least that's what I pretend, but it appears that may no longer be the case. An hour ago, you cracked the equations necessary to power the force field. You showed me up tonight, my magnificent daughter, and I couldn't be happier or prouder of that. I always knew you were special, but never did I fathom that the little girl who taught her stuffed Nessie multiplication tables when she was 6 years old would grow up to master quantum laser mechanics. I talked to Jacob at the Syndicate and assured him that the modified containment force field would be operational in a month's time. The games are a go, and it's all thanks to you, and I owe you an apology. I'm just a doddering old fool, trying to hold on to my baby a little while longer before he loses her to adulthood. But I do see you. I'm sorry it's taken this long, but I now see the strong, brilliant, wonderful young woman you've become. And I know when the day comes that I'm no longer walking these dusty old streets, that you are going to be just fine. Hold on to this feeling, Natalie. Savor this victory. Summer may be eternal on Solace, but the world can also be a very cold place at times. And on those days when I'm no longer with you, and you feel alone and frustrated, and that there are too many mountains to climb, please reread this letter. Remember that you are my little girl, and because of you, my darling daughter, the people of the Outlands will have reasons to smile soon enough. The games will be brilliant because you are brilliant. My daughter can and will do anything she wants in this life because my daughter is the smartest woman in the frontier. Je t'aime. Oh man, I don't know French. Je t'aime de tout mon cœur pour toujours. Bye-bye. P.S. And the Syndicate agrees with you. The Ring is a better name than the Force Field. Fine, you win this one too. And that's the end of the letter. I think that says, I love you, and then something else in French. I don't know. I don't know French. I know Spanish, man. If there was, like, something with octane, I would know it, but nothing with octane. But that'll do it with tonight's stream. I don't know how long we've been going. It's not telling me. Hold on. Oh, 55 minutes and 30 seconds now. But yeah, in our next stream or video, we'll be going over chapter 4 with Wraith. And in my opinion, that one's pretty good. But I'm kind of biased. I've known the Titanfall universe ever since it came out back in 2014, 2015. Because, you know, I'm the best. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm tired. You're tired. Go to bed. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.